Welcome back to the Green Beans Go channel. It's your host, me, and I realize this video is a little niche and maybe, potentially, probably a waste of time. I don't like to concern myself with petty drama. That's a lie. I love to concern myself with petty drama, but I see why that is a waste of time. So when I do, I try to rationalize why I'm wasting my time on something. Why does this poker drama, elf spaces, now circles off, mega feud, beef, whatever you want to call it, why do I care? And if you watched my first video of this sort, where I kind of reviewed what was going on, I said I cared because I am in this space. I often feel bad about commenting on this, talking poorly about people, giving my opinion on things. And I actually got a positive DM from somebody. And they said, hey, I appreciate, quote unquote, the adult in the room. I enjoy your takes because they have nuance. They just implied that they were thankful that my account existed. And that's not me bragging. Like, that takes a lot for me to say, and I'm thankful for that. And I feel awesome that I'm at a point now where people listen. And I look out at other people who are being listened to more, the Rob Pizzolas, the Elfs. And in some ways, it's hard not to look at them from a content perspective and think, okay, how can I move like they move, so to speak? How can I mimic? What is Elf doing to really, I think like that. I analyze the process. And the more that is uncovered in this mess, the more I know that my slow growth and who I am trying to be, but not only trying to be, who I just am as a person, may clash heads with a lot of sports betting guys, plus EV guys. The way I think about things, the perspective, I'm soft, I'm sensitive, I'm emotional. I like to play devil's advocate. I like to be contrarian. I realize that's not a personality people love. So let's talk about this, because a lot of you may or may not know the background of this poker scam, poker scandal. And I don't want to take a bunch of time. And I also don't have the ability to take a bunch of time because I don't know all the details. But the point is, you had a poker game that may or may not have been cheated. How do we know? Certain specific people lost a lot of money, and there was a message leaked of someone asking, do you want to cheat here? Now, there were multiple people who knew about that message. Do you want to cheat here? And some of them did not come forward with that information, did not stop the games because they knew they could make money. They were selfish and said, hey, look, there may be an edge occurring. I may or may not know about it. There may be some collusion, but this game is overall plus EV for me to participate in. I'm not going to poke a bear, so to speak. Well, the message got released, and now, there is a magnifying glass on these poker games, and specifically a situation where a burner account called Bluebeard and Man of the Vig were in a heads up against a big stakes gambler, Tommy G, who was drunk and high. The point is, Tommy G lost a lot of money to these guys. Now, these guys are also connected to another guy whose name is Flup. He is part of a syndicate. These guys, I don't know what they do. Like, I know they make a lot of money sports betting. I know they have a lot of partners and a lot of accounts, and I don't know what that entails. I'm not going to pretend to. It's sure more complicated than I can even imagine. But you have to understand that these guys deal in a lot of secrecy. They deal in a lot of terms and conditions skirting. They deal in a lot of slithering, and they justify it by the book is bad, right? The sportsbook is the bad guy. We are trying to beat them. So if we have to, they've set it up to be rigged. They've set it up to be a losing game. So if we have to kind of play by the gray area, break the rules a little bit, right? And everybody does it, right? Everybody, like I am guilty on a very small scale of doing the same thing. So I am no better. But that is what we're dealing with. Now, when all this broke, there were people who came out and said, let's not jump to conclusions. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's wait. Let's take the data from these poker games and let's send it off to arbitration. Let's get it checked by poker pros who can look at the cards, look at the whole cards, look at the calls, look at the folds, look at the pot sizes. They can analyze the game and say cheating occurred or cheating did not occur. And so that's kind of where the sides are. We're waiting for this arbitration. And I'm here to tell you right now that arbitration does not matter. I'm here to tell you right now that when arbitration, when it's completed, if they say there was no cheating, it doesn't change my opinion of any of these guys. If they said there was cheating, it doesn't change my opinion of any of these guys. Because in the last 48 hours, these guys have shown who they are. They've shown who they'll protect. They've shown who they align with. They show where their values, where their morals line up. And I get it. That's not something we talk about in the sports betting industry. That's not people don't want to talk about that. Oh, look at this guy's right. I get it. I'm not trying to sound like I am Mr. Moral, right? But when you're dealing with having a platform, having an audience, being someone with eyes and attention, when you have a reputation, I think there is an obligation to act in a manner that hurts as few people as possible. Let's say that, and if we can hurt 0 people, great. So what's happening with Circles Off? So you may or may not know Circles Off. They have a channel, a YouTube channel. Rob Pizzola, CEO, co-founder of BetStamp. Again, I don't know all the details. I just know that Rob Pizzola is a highly respected, well-known face in the gambling community. And he was leading the charge of, hey, let's slow down. Let's wait for arbitration. Well, he has vested interest to do that because he works with Flup, with Circles Off, right? He may work with all these other guys. I don't think he does, but he might. They're all higher up on the food chain. We'll just say that. And I also think that it's fair. It's fair to have that stance. Let's wait for arbitration. But I would argue that arbitration may find nothing, that 73 hands may not be enough. 73 hands, it may have just been that Man of the Vig and Bluebeard saw Tommy as a weak player and just kind of took poker strategy and understood, hey, I'm going to play Tommy and I'm not going to play Bluebeard, right? People can do that without speaking about it. But the fact that a message exists, want to cheat here, tells me that there was more to this and that the people who knew about it probably should be looked at more cautiously. I'm not saying don't trust them. I'm not saying crucify them. I'm just saying, little tarnish, little tarnish on the rep. So then today, Elf releases a tweet, and if you'll remember, if you're an OG gambling drama connoisseur like myself, Elf released a tweet talking about the push-up competition. So Elf did a competition. Profit X hosted it. It was peer-to-peer. I could bet on yes. Somebody else would have to bet on no. That's how there was no house, right? Of if Elf could do 50 push-ups in 60 seconds. I forget what it was. I think that's what, it doesn't matter. And Elf released DMs of Rob Pizzola, CEO of Circles Off, CEO of BetStamp. Well-respected Rob Pizzola released messages of Rob Pizzola saying, hey, how many push-ups can you do? Looking for insider information. Elf says, hey, I'm not doing that. I already got in trouble because I arbed it. I'm not going to cheat this system, which first of all, good on Elf. I'm critical of Elf. I speak poorly, negatively of Elf often. I don't agree with how he operates a lot of the time, but good on Elf in that instance. Elf stands his ground and Pizzola doesn't back down. Whereas if Pizzola had said, haha, I understand, right? Still probably bad to ask for insider information, but not as bad as what he said, which was, I promise I'll keep it to myself. I just want to make some money, something along that. And let me get it right. Okay. Let me get it right, because again, that is something that I can take a few seconds and actually back check and make sure that, I'm actually not lying. I can't say anything, Pizzola. No insider info is what Elf said. I'm already under heat for arbing it. Pizzola said, I won't share the info, but I will make a few dollars. I bet on myself in a putting tourney and face some heat, right? He's trying to butter him up. Hey, this happened to me. I know you maybe look up to me, Elf. I know that you've been on my show. I know I've kind of been guiding you, and so to speak. I've appeared on your show. I've brought you views, right? I believe in you, Elf. I believe you're good for the industry, right? I once did this in a putting tournament, and I face it, right? He's trying to appeal to him, I think. And ultimately, he's trying to get some insider info and get some money. Now, somebody else who works for Circles Off, Jason, gets on there, and he starts defending Rob Pizzola. And he starts saying, well, it's no different than what your buddy Brett did. Well, it's very different, Jason. And I was appalled at Jason's takes. Takes by Jay is his name. I like Jason. I've never had a problem with Jason. I think he speaks clearly. I think he has opinions. He stands to them. This is the first time I saw Jason fumble. I mean, it was brutal. It was bad. And he was saying, well, Brett, you also were getting insider information. And Brett very clearly says, before the line went up, when there was talks on it, I told everyone I was taking the over. I told everyone I would be betting the over. Anytime I bet the over, I posted the over. So if anybody thought I had insider information as Elf's friend, which is potentially obvious, right? Follow it. Now, I was scared. I thought Brett was maybe setting traps. I thought Brett was, hyping this up. People would believe that he was his friend, and then he was betting the no with more money, right? I'm an idiot. Okay, I thought Brett was playing 3D chess. Brett was just playing honesty. And for the first time in these spaces today, I'm like, Brett Feinsod, you're kind of cooking. You're cooking a little bit now. Again. Brett and I, if Brett would not use the R word so much, maybe Brett and I would get along a little more. Brett's aggressive. But he was making a good point. And Jason was like, well, Rob didn't do anything. And he couldn't admit that what Rob did, searching for the actual information a day before the event, was different than Brett from square one, day one, before the market went up, saying, I think Elf can do this. Vastly different situations. And I zoom out. And I look at this and I say, man, people will defend their own people in this, which, okay, maybe to a degree that's fine. But when your own people are currently actively making mistakes or have made mistakes, and you can't take the approach of integrity and morality and saying, yeah, Rob probably shouldn't have sent that message, right? It's a little, right? Anybody has the ability to send the message. It's not the worst thing he could have done. He didn't rig anything. But for a guy who has the caliber of him, of Rob, maybe it's a little suspect. Well, he's just getting information. Well, sure. If that's the take you want to do, totally fine. And this brings me to maybe the solution, or maybe the biggest thing of all. There is a level above Rob, above Elf. And the higher you go up the food chain, the more alarming it is. And while the entire platform that this stands on, the entire thing is greed. All of this has to do with greed and making more money, all top to bottom. How Elf handles content and does things that I don't agree with to try to grow his show, platforming certain people, aligning with certain people, engagement forming, that kind of thing. It's all about trying to grow, thus make more money. The poker game, right? Not outing the cheating, the potential cheating, the messages, playing against somebody who's drunk and high and loose with their money and Tommy G, taking advantage of a situation. It comes down to greed and making money. Rob Pizzola standing up for these guys who make him a lot of money makes Rob Pizzola a lot of money. Rob Pizzola messaging Elf to get details makes Rob Pizzola potentially a few bucks, as he says. But I zoom out even further. And I'm not taking the culpability off of any of the individuals I've mentioned in this video, but I'm also, I am not the arbiter of morality, right? But what I will say is Profit X is above them. Bet Bash is above them. If Profit X doesn't offer that market to put more money in their pocket, to generate an income for Profit X, some of this is avoided. Profit X allowed an opportunity where something could be rigged, something could be manipulated, foul play could take place. And I don't know why we don't say that. I don't know why we don't want to talk about Profit X or these books who do things, but it's like they parade as this more moral alternative to a sports book, which I fundamentally agree with. Like, don't get me wrong. I think peer-to-peer transactions in these exchanges is a more moral way of sports betting. Barely. But when they offer something for the sake of engagement, for the sake of dollars in their pocket, really to do, like, it's not really entertainment at that point. When it can be rigged and people can lose because other people have more information based on something as easy as telling, and they're telling somebody, I think it's a market that shouldn't be up. Well, you've never, followed Twitter accounts who leak injuries in the NBA. Understand that those two things are similar in nature, but still quite a bit different in terms of what I'm arguing. So, I could blame all of these people. I could blame none of these people. But I think it starts at the top, right? ProfitX should have never offered the push-up market. Rob Pizzola should have never asked and pushed by asking again Elf for details, right? They should have never be playing the poker games, right? They should, like, all of these books do allow for some of this to occur. What's the solution? I don't know if there is one, because books will continue to make money. Books will continue to everybody will continue to make money. It just trickles down. It's just trickle down, it's trickle down Reaganomics or greedonomics. Last thing I want to say before I lose you is, I do think it's interesting because for a while the heat had been on Elf, and rightfully so, just with how I believe he's choosing to navigate. If he doesn't care about certain consequences and certain morality and integrity principles, and he just wants to run off and create all the content that he can, and who cares who he runs over or trash, he may not have a problem with that. And so again, there is no good and bad, right? I would not do it that way. Okay. That doesn't make me better. It just is different. That's why I don't care for it. We'll just say that. Okay. But Elf gets a lot of attention. Elf gets a lot of views. Elf is one person who can bring the community together. But is that a good thing? And so I'm looking at ProfitX, and I'm being critical of what they've done, but now I'm looking at BetBash, and I'm zooming out. I'm looking at all of this. Here are these people that you thought were X, Y, and Z that maybe they really aren't. Maybe they really are just in it for themselves, in it to be selfish, in it to make as much money as possible. And I think about BetBash, and I think about Spanky, and Spanky was one of the first people that I really gravitated towards, listened to his podcast when this started. He's one of the dudes in this. Like he is him in sports betting. And I don't know if he makes all the decisions. I meant to mention this briefly in the last episode, and I've given it some more thought. I don't know if Spanky makes the decisions. But I think having Elf at BetBash is a poor move. I think it's a PR move for for BetBash. I think BetBash knows it will get clicks, cause engagement. Elf is well known. Let's bring him out here. But I think this is an interesting opportunity where BetBash can look and can say, ooh, there's been some things that he's done that maybe aren't the best. Maybe the way he approaches certain things aren't the best. And again, this is my perspective. BetBash may not think this. Elf obviously doesn't think about these things that he chooses to do. But I look at Elf's credentials as a sports bettor, and I know he makes a lot of money, and I know he uses OddsJam, and I know he live bets, and I know he has accounts, and I know he has partners, I know he's well connected, and I know he has edges. But he's not going to get on stage at BetBash and share these edges. He's not going to say, well, here's how you can same game parlay these player props in a live game against FanDuel, and here's how you can price it. Like, he's not going to tell you an edge. So the value he's going to bring people to BetBash, I don't know what that is. Buy OddsJam, get an odds screen, follow it when so what's the BetBash community going to gain from Elf being up there? I would imagine that not an exceptional wealth of knowledge outside of what plenty of other people in this industry could bring that may not have a platform, but may have a better conscience. And I hate to say that, and I genuinely believe deep down Elf is a good guy. I just think he wants to grow more. And again, this has turned into an insult of him, and that's not the point. The insult is really above giving the attention to to that. Bet Bash wants Elf at Bet Bash because Elf brings more money. Elf brings more attention. Elf brings views. And that is what all of this is about, right? And that's what this is about. That's what Green Means Go is about. How can I turn content into a living? How can I make money doing this? I'm choosing it to do in a way that I think is best. And so is everybody else. But with all the arguing and drama, I don't think I need to wait for arbitration to know that dishonesty took place at some level. That people that I've looked up to and admired, why? Because they know a little bit more about sports betting than me, because they have connections, because they make more money than me. Because when your reputation starts falling, sure, you have a lot of money, and maybe that's what really matters, but it's just interesting to watch from afar as someone who is trying to grow as well. I'm learning a lot. And that doesn't get views necessarily, and it doesn't grow fast, but it's something that I'm proud of. We'll just say that. Thanks for coming by. I love you, and enjoy OKC and the Pacers.